So as much as people say that AI is going to replace junior devs and we're going to lose jobs and they're going to be annihilated, I don't think that's true. I think we're going to have to invest even more in junior developers and in harnessing this immense power that AI has. And I think it's true not just for devs. I think it's true for designers, for BAs, for PMs. I think it's true across the board. Hey, Randy, it's awesome to see you again.
It's
It's been
awesome
a
to see
minute.
you too. Yeah, I
Been a
mean,
minute.
well, it's like the old joke, like, the only way that like men have conversations is if they do a podcast. They never hop on the phone. It's like you have to do a podcast,
It's so
which is
true.
not, well, it's not true. You and I hop on, well,
Okay,
Zoom
that's
calls,
true.
but like we do have real conversations that aren't
We do.
podcasts. But I'm happy to be on this podcast conversation with you.
I am too. And I think it's wonderful the way this is set up without an intro, without people. It's just us talking, which is great. I have so many things I wanted to talk to you about. First, if I may, and it's not on the list, but I saw you updated your avatar using AI. Your
Yes.
ear got filled in with the right amount of beard.
Yes.
Did you have
Yes.
to
It
give it
was.
a special prompt to do that?
No, no. Apparently, like ChatGPT is really good with beards. So that was wonderful. Like my little cartoon avatar, I was like, okay, give me a beard. And then I told it, like, okay, add some white to the beard. And then it turned into Santa Claus. And I'm like, all right, make it
No, too
brown
much
and
white.
white. And then it finally produced one that I was like happy with. And I was like, this is cool. I'm going to share it, but I'm not going to use it as my avatar because I don't know. I like my original avatar.
I like
So.
your original avatar as well. So you've been on LinkedIn using it, I think, in a way that I haven't used it probably ever. And I would say I have some strong opinions about where LinkedIn is these days. And let me share those with you. And then I want to ask you about like what your experience has been. But
Sure.
mine has been that I kind of think LinkedIn is a wasteland for trying to find a job. And I've talked to people about it as something we've called fake help, that their only real way of, getting a job if you're serious about it and you've been laid off is to talk to real people and meet with real
Mhm.
people and have Zooms and coffees and do connections and what they call networking, and I just kind of call being human.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people complain about, oh, I've sent 100,000 job applications on LinkedIn and two of them got back to me and then they ghosted me. And I believe so that's why I think LinkedIn is fake help. And you've been using it quite effectively, I think. Has your experience been the same? Like what? And, oh, and maybe there's some context that we need as
Yeah.
well. So like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see a little bit of that context. I started like really pushing LinkedIn like a couple of months ago. That's because my job circumstances changed, and I sat down when my circumstances changed, and I was like, okay, what steps can I take to be active? Because so I will either fall into a depression or I have to be active. Like whenever I'm like upset, I clean the house.
Keep
Like
going.
I have to do something. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, I'm in the process of being laid off. I need to start reaching out to people. I need to start talking to people. And I'm really good at posting online. I'm very much a like, for being one of the olds, I'm a digital native. And so I started posting, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to post every day, even if it's dumb and stupid and not related to anything on LinkedIn. And it's it's been a journey. And I have to say, I agree with you. I think LinkedIn's kind of a ghetto. There's not like the value in LinkedIn is hard to find. There's a lot of people who are like the tech bros who are trying to sell their like email system or course. There's a lot of people who are genuinely trying to like find a new job, and people who are recruiting for a job. But I feel like the people who are recruiting for a job, they're posting to LinkedIn to check a box, not to actually connect. And finding the people who are actually on LinkedIn who will make comments and who will actually engage is really tough. And I don't think I've like broken through like a threshold yet, but I'm getting there. Like my most successful post, well, we'll talk about that in a moment, but the most of the posts that get attention on LinkedIn that I found are whenever I like talk about my circumstances changing, my job circumstances changing. Like
Mm-hmm.
people like they swarm to it, they like it, they make comments,
Mm-hmm.
and like that commiserating, like that's nice in a way because like a lot of people reached out to me
Community.
whenever I, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's wonderful. But I want to be able to post cool things to LinkedIn. Like I went to a local meetup here in Pittsburgh and I didn't have any business cards because I'm like, I don't have any business cards just for me.
Yeah.
And it was like the morning of the event. And I'm like, what can I do? I've got a black and white printer. And I made one of those little fortune teller things that
Oh
like you
yeah, yeah,
fold
yeah.
up. I
Uh-huh.
made a bunch of fortune tellers and I was just like, okay, I made a dozen of these. And whenever I handed them out, I made a big deal talking about it. And it was just basically kind of like your own like design, like your own creative director, like telling you more white space, make the logo bigger, you
Funny.
know? Yeah.
Make the
And,
logo
and
bigger.
yeah. And I'm like,
Yep.
I'm just like, hopefully it'll be memorable and we'll see how to create these connections. And that's where I think LinkedIn starts to become successful is I made a couple of connections there at that event and I'm carrying that forward. So like one of them was a person who like knew another person who was a hiring manager and like I pursued that. That ended up not working out, but that's okay. Like but it was a leg up in the process,
Yeah.
you know. And the same is true, like I'm following up on another lead talking to someone and like just kind of bringing it around because LinkedIn allows me to professionally connect and it allows me to like send them messages and trying to like maintain those connections. And as what I do is as I get like after I've talked to somebody a couple of times, like on a call or in person, I'll move it to like email correspondence to try and make it a little bit more
That's
personal,
that. Yep.
you
Yep.
know, because like
Mhm.
LinkedIn, no one wants LinkedIn messages. No
I,
one is excited for LinkedIn messages.
I,
Yvonne, tell me about your excitement for LinkedIn
I don't
messages.
have LinkedIn. I'm truthfully amassing as many junk messages as I can so that I can take a screenshot about how many I have so that I can post that screenshot on LinkedIn. It's very meta. I'm like, this nobody wants these messages. Why? Why? Just don't. Stop.
Uh,
Oh, the other thing that bugs me is people think they know exactly how LinkedIn works. And so they give you all of the recommendations. This is how you're going to increase engagement. You have to have bullets. M dashes are a no-no because that's all from ChatGPT. Like everybody knows. And like all of it's BS. Nobody knows. Only LinkedIn
yeah,
knows. And plus, it's not like the algorithm doesn't change. It's changing weekly, monthly, who knows? Like we don't even know that, right? So
yeah.
I for a long time I was posting just to see what would happen. I spent 3 months and I posted not more than 2 lines of an update that was pithy or trying to be smart or just like an observation of something that I've seen on LinkedIn. And nothing really changed. It was just there more often and it was getting a few more likes and a few more engagements, but nothing changed. Like it's just I don't know. All social media is the same now.
It is.
That's the other thing. Like, how is it different than the rest?
Well, I can tell you that when I started posting like every day, when I started like mixing in images and those like PDF carousels and videos, and between that and the consistency, I noticed that LinkedIn was spreading my message a little bit further.
Oh,
Like
really?
it, like I was seeing people who I had no idea who they were, like liking my things or reaching out to connect. And so I noticed that that helped spread things a lot. Obviously, LinkedIn is kind of like rewarding this multimedia approach. And
That's
so
that.
like
Mm,
that's why I'm dipping my toes into like recording videos to post onto LinkedIn. Like not anything super fancy. It just I open up photo booth and I have a browser window open and like, you know, just kind of share that.
dragging the camera around when you use
Mhm.
an iPhone. Like I knew about that, but I was so happy to see it out there that other people could learn about it too. That was a good job. It
Thank
was a
you.
good job. Hey, I wanted to ask you about The Sorry if I just want to change the subject a bit.
Oh, no, no,
I
go
wa-
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to ask you about Figma because it's been on my mind the last week or so, I think. They had that conference, and a couple of things came out of it. At least they were interesting in my mind, and I don't know a whole lot of it. But one was Figma Sites, and the
Hmm.
other was Figma Draw.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what Figma Draw is, except that I saw a very well produced, it looked like Hollywood style commercial about Figma Draw, where there was you know, a teenage artist in her bedroom using Figma Draw, and her parents were like aghast. So I want to ask you about that. And then I want to ask you about Figma Sites. Is this just another Squarespace competitor, or do you think there's some legs to it?
Sure. Let's start with Figma Draw because I started life as a cartoonist. Like I have a degree in cartooning. I wanted to make
I didn't
comic
know that.
books. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I went very quickly to graphic design because I'm like, hey, I can work 8 hours
Get
to
paid.
make $100 on a comic book page. And I'm like, I love making comic books, but I like money more.
I like to
So
eat.
yeah, I mean, who knew? So so Figma Draw has what it's doing is it's allowing you to get richer like vector controls for illustrations. Like you can now do like texture fills, you can control like what kind of pattern is on the stroke. So if you take your Bezier tool and you draw a line, like you draw a squiggly line with the Bezier tool, you can have it be like rough edged, like it's a pen on a high tooth like paper. You can make it like look like brush strokes. You can control various like thicknesses at various points in the illustration. And the most direct competitor is Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator's like brush tools are still more sophisticated than Figma Draw, but if Figma is going to pour a lot of effort into this, I'm sure that like it's just going to be a year or two before they have parity with Illustrator, and it is going to be really an illustration tool,
Can you
which is going to
use
be pretty awesome.
can you use Draw on an iPad? And does it behave differently if you
As
do?
far as I know, no, you can't use Figma on an iPad. I've got a little iPad right here, and you can use FigJam on it, but you can't use Figma on it. And so I think like that's another one of the barriers to Figma Draw, because like if you're gonna expect me to draw, I need to be able to do it on the iPad.
Because that's kind of what it feels like, right? It's
Hmm.
in the name, and it feels weird to be drawing with a cursor on in a browser or on a desktop app. It feels like the natural extension would be, hey man, use this on your iPad, use the pressure sensitivity of an Apple Pencil, and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know I used to do design work with a Wacom tablet like way back in the
Wow.
day, and I really enjoyed that. And so like when I saw Figma Draw, I'm like, well, maybe I need to get a tablet again and do some stuff like that, because I think that illustration is something that the web needs more of. Like we have a lot of like illustration resources, but we don't have enough custom illustrations for individuals. Like using like a library is good enough, but I like custom illustrations for things.
I do too. They're gorgeous.
So,
They're gorgeous
yeah,
when they're custom, aren't they? Man,
yes,
they really
so
are.
nice.
Figma
Um,
sites, dude. What's
yeah.
your take on that?
Okay, so my hot take on Figma sites is that it's trash, and I'll tell you why. So what it is it's basically taking everything inside of Figma and it's allowing you to publish a website. You can determine breakpoints, you can use all of their auto layout features and publish a website, which on one hand for prototyping, okay, for prototyping something and taking a look at it in a browser, I think that's really good and really useful. Okay. I like to be able to look at things in a browser and be able to like play with it, pass it to clients, talk them through it. I think for prototyping, it's going to be very useful. The reason that I call it trash is that a lot of people are going to publish production work on it. And part of the problem with that is that the engine that's rendering the code on the backside is terrible for accessibility. It's terrible for generating a website. It's all divs and spans all the way
Well,
down. no structure to the document at all, no control like over any of the meta things that you might need for publishing a site. I know that they have a content management system coming through, but part of
Do
my
they?
concern, yeah, part of my concern with that is like, do you get locked in to that?
Sure.
How do you like, is it interoperable with like other exports? Can you like, how do you like make this sort of thing? Because it's very much like a Wix style experience where you're making each custom page and you're not making a template that things pour
Right.
into it. And I don't know. I have a lot of reservations and opinions about this because I think that whenever it comes to production sites, they need to be as good as possible, and anything that lets you shortcut people, sorry. All right. So cow paths, where people take the shortest route, whenever you've got like if you have a 90
Path of least
degree sidewalk, everybody's like
path
shaving
of
off that
yep.
corner, and
Yep.
everyone always takes the path of least resistance, and that
Absolutely.
path ends up being the way that people go. And providing this as an option, people are going to start, they're going to be like, hey, we can just launch your pizzeria website using Figma sites, and we don't even need to hire a developer.
Yeah.
And like it's going to harm the web, it's going to harm accessibility, and it's going to create like more problems.
I
And so that's, I know that's a little bit of a rant,
No,
but
it's not.
that's
I
my
mean, it is
thought.
a rant, but it's valid. I mean, I think you're talking about things that are true and that have evidence, and that like if the accessibility is trash, then why? Like if there's no hierarchy, then why? Like why? And I agree, like prototyping, this gets you much closer to something that a client would maybe sign off on faster. But gosh, the amount of technical debt that it's likely going to incur is horrible. It's horrible. And I like, it's just, I don't know. Are we biased because we are like, I want to try to think about it from the other angle. Are we inside the fishbowl and can't see out? And that's why we have this opinion? And maybe there's a good reason why this is going to be amazing. I personally don't think so. Whoops.
I yeah. I think what it is that because we're inside the fishbowl, we know what the standards are for success, for actual success. And like this is shortcutting a lot of those things,
You're right.
and it's a problem of expertise. And what this product is it's taking the flashiest part of web design, and saying like, look, you can do start to finish super fast. Meanwhile, like the it's that old saying that the last 20% takes 80% of the time.
80% of the time. Yeah.
Like that 80% of the time is still there. It's not actually shortcutting anything.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think we can see both inside and outside the fishbowl. I think that's basically what you said.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I mean, I tell you what, I have embraced like this whole like AI vibe coding thing. Like I'm a strong coder to begin with, and I love React. And so I've been playing with like V0 and Lovable and all of these services, and I've like really leaned into it, because like instead of me going like, okay, how do I iterate over an object again to get like things that are several levels down in the data? Like it's not natural for me. I mentioned earlier, I'm a cartoonist at heart. And, by vibe coding, I can say like loop over this and do this thing, and it'll get it enough that I can then go in and style it. And that's something that has like helped me produce faster and engage faster. And so like that was another thing that Figma revealed, is that they're coming out with a product that's a lot like Lovable and V0 here soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with those two. Are they similar to Cursor or are they different?
They are similar yet different. They are services where you go there with an idea and you tell it like, "Hey, make me," and I'll give you an example. I was meeting internally when with the Four Kitchen staff about like a higher education client who was like, "Should we do like a tuition calendar?" And I'm like, "Yes." I said, "Let's see what it would look like." And I said to V0, I'm like, "Here's the tuition page, the link to their tuition page." And I said, "Make a tuition calendar out of this." And the first version that it produced, it wasn't branded, but it had all the appropriate drop downs. It did the math based on everything that was there, and we were able to take that to the client to talk to them and say like, "Hey, why don't we add a tuition calendar?" And having that like visual interactive thing that could be played with and shown made that conversation much easier than had we said like we have an idea, because sometimes clients don't like having that vision. They might not be used to doing that. And
Yeah.
so the easier we make it for them to see the finished product, the easier that is. That's why I go back real quick. That's why I go back to Figma Sites as a prototyping tool, because it lets the client see what it could be, but then you
Yeah.
still have to build it.
So this reminds me of some vibe coding that I was able to sit in on a couple weeks ago. Two of our team members were experimenting with Cursor, and both of them senior devs. One is our director of development, Lex, and the other one is Jason, our front end architect. And we're like, we should really figure out what this Cursor thing is. And I mean, there was a Drupal site, it was vanilla, and the natural language prompt to Cursor was build me a weather widget that can tell me the weather where I am. And it not only scaffolded and stubbed out an entire Drupal module, it picked an open weather API, it configured all of it, and it mostly worked. And not only was it frightening, it was like, holy cow, what do we do with our staff? With like, how can we leverage this? How can we be better? How can we be faster? How can we be more efficient? And what we realized was we need to be investing more in our junior developers, in mentorship, in more, and spending more time with our junior devs, because our junior devs, because they're so early on in their careers, would not be able to wield Cursor the way that a senior dev could potentially wield, because of the amount of experience of knowing the things to ask and the
Yeah.
things to fix and the things that are need to be identified. Whereas I think there's a risk that junior developers would simply accept the output and not know what to ask or look for. And I don't think you can replace that with AI. I think you need a human to mentor those juniors.
Yeah.
So as much as people say that AI is going to replace junior devs and we're going to lose jobs and they're going to be annihilated, I don't think that's true. I think we're going to have to invest even more in junior developers and in harnessing this immense power that AI has. And I think it's true not just for devs. I think it's true for designers, for BAs, for PMs. I think it's true across the board.
Yeah. Three things I want to mention related to Cursor. So first, you can drop a .cursor rules file into the root of your project, and you can give it custom prompts that will always go with everything that you do.
No,
Um,
really.
yes. So I always tell it to like start every conversation with an emoji, and I put an emoji in, and that tells me that it's listening to that prompt.
Listening.
Yeah, so that way I can tell like if it ever replies back to me without that emoji, then I know that it has like I've talked too much to it and that prompt has rolled off the back end.
I see.
And then I also like, I'll be like, "Hey, don't use TypeScript because I hate TypeScript." And you could do things like this is a Drupal module, always use this component
Drupal
library.
coding. Yep.
Yeah,
Use the component coding
and
guidelines, use STC, like do all of that.
absolutely. The second thing about Cursor is that after you do a thing, you can always ask it, make this better, or what are problems or security concerns on the code, and you can like
Mm.
iterate on it as well. I vibe coded a plugin for Figma to pull color variables for Tailwind. And and I like stubbed out something, and then I said, hey, rewrite this to make it better. And it separated everything out, and I like reviewed everything, and it definitely improved the code. And so I was like, great. And then the third thing about Cursor is that Cursor interacts with files on your system. So it doesn't just have to be like a coding project. So if you use a notes app like Obsidian that uses
Oh,
markdown files, you can use and interact with it with your notes, with whatever you want to on that system. So you could say, like, if you're writing like a story, you can be like, okay, do these 5 chapters, like, do they relate to each other? Is there any like plot holes? And so you can do that because Cursor is just using the LLMs that you would use like Claude or ChatGPT. So that's another way to use Cursor.
those are three great tips. I love the first one because it made me think that you could have a company-wide standard rule set that set things up for a particular formalism or a particular set of parameters that we just always know we're going to do as a company
Yeah.
and maintain those. That's really cool.
Yeah. You can even, like, I mean, add custom rules to generate documentation, you know, like, tell it in I haven't used this yet, but tell it in the Cursor rules doc, like, always add documentation for new components or new modules.
That's pretty damn cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've got all this AI, but we don't have any flying cars. I don't understand.
Oh, I actually saw a prototype of a flying motorbike, and it looked like those racers that were in Star Wars that baby Anakin Skywalker raced.
Yeah.
That looked cool. It looked so good.
I bet that would be awesome.
And it was I don't it was just a video. It was very short. I wish I had clicked on it actually. So I don't know much about it, but it looked very cool. So
Yeah.
maybe we will have flying cars after the flying bikes.
There we go. That would be fantastic.
Hey, do you get a lot of spam on your phone?
Oh my
Texts?
God. Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I just, I get maybe one a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but
Oh
every
man,
day, like,
every single day.
oh my goodness. And it's gone up since I started posting on LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you have your
Yeah.
phone number published publicly?
I mean, I'm sure I've published it publicly before. I
Yeah.
know past iterations of my website have had it on there, and so like it's just there.
It's interesting that you noticed that correlation. I wonder if it's related. Like it feels like it should be, but I wonder if it's just perception.
Well, it's a lot of what my guess is that, like, so I'm open to work. I mentioned that, I'm starting this freelance world and I'm becoming a consultant,
Yeah.
and all of this is like whatever bots are going all out there to do all of this stuff, I'm sure is like processing all of this, and it's like, oh, this person needs like business stuff, because I am listed as a business owner because I've had an LLC for more than a decade now.
Oh,
And so it's like, hey, do you need $100,000 loan? Do you need this? Do you need
yeah.
that?
The loan stuff is so annoying. So annoying. I've figured out that all of these spam texts have to use a provider like Twilio to send the messages out. And they're supposed to say, use the word stop to stop these messages, but they never do. And there's
Mm,
no one in their right mind who is sending these spam messages manually. So what
yeah.
I've been doing to them is I've just been replying stop. And and within 30 seconds, I get one of those network error or network unsubscribe messages, the ones that are required by the cellular providers, and then I delete and report as junk. And I like my volume of spam has gone down considerably since adding that stop response. So maybe
Oh.
try that.
Yeah, yeah, I should stop replying with the F word and use
Yeah,
stop
don't.
instead. So,
Well, you could reply that and then send a stop.
true, true. So, uh,
Hey, do you want to talk a little bit about higher ed, the site you have,
yeah,
highered.design? I
yeah.
I saw on LinkedIn you were putting together a whole bunch of work you have done in the past on frameworks, and I haven't had a chance to look at the site and to learn more about it. So maybe can you tell me about it?
Sure. I mean, honestly, so I've worked in higher education for a long time, either like inside, I worked at the University of Pittsburgh for a decade, or outside, helping them through agencies. And I started to compile a list of design systems that are in use in higher education, because it's always nice to know, like, what various entities are doing, so that whenever I talk to another college or university, I can say, hey, this person's doing this person's doing that, sort of like what we do with design systems, just writ large. And everyone knows Polaris from Shopify, and Primer from GitHub, and Salesforce's, and IBM's Carbon, and all of that. And there are all sorts of lists of design systems, but very rarely do higher education design systems get on the list. And I decided to put together a place where people can contribute and we can have a list of these systems. So basically, it's a card grid that says, hey, we've got Falwell, we've got like Yale's, we've got all of these different systems.
Columbia, Stanford,
Yes.
Texas A&M. I'm just looking at it right now.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And Mario Hernandez just this morning, right before I launched, provided me with his UCLA one, because he's over there now. And
Really?
yeah, and so like, I've got this library. I just have the logo, the name of the design system, the name of the entity, like the university, and a link to the design system. I want to grow it, make the list longer, but I also want to make it more useful over time. So like as this gets attention and grows, then I'm going to start to kind of like be like, okay, so do I start marking which ones are React and which ones are Twig and which ones are Drupal and which ones are WordPress? I haven't gone that
Yes.
deep on them yet, but I do want to begin like getting that sort of information associated with this. But right now, I've got about 15 on the list,
19.
and 19.
I just
Okay.
counted. I just
All right.
counted.
Thank you. And so I'm hoping that more people will send along their work, because if there's one, I don't know, if there's a design team that's ever undersung at a university, it is the people who are contributing to the brand and the design system at the university
Yeah.
website, because like they work their butts off to make sure that they produce something that's useful for the university. And like everybody, some people embrace it really well and some people push back against it. And like, I just want to celebrate those people who do that hard work.
I feel ya. I feel ya. I love that the site itself is an open source site and it's a GitHub repo. Is it a React side or a
It's
Jekyll side or what is it?
it's React. It's written in Vite. I literally vibe coded the whole thing because I'm like,
Did
you
you
know
really?
what? Yeah, because I wanted to have this done months ago. Like I wanted it, oh goodness, like in January, I wanted to post it. But I just kept not finding the time. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to sit down with, I think it was V0. And I was like, hey, or no, it was Lovable. I'm like, can you like take this list? I copy and pasted my list from Notion into it and turn this into a website. And it produced like this card grid and everything. And I'm like, okay, now I have to do some design stuff. And I used ChatGPT to generate the header image. I picked an icon from Font Awesome, and then like, did a design pass on things because the design of it was not good out of the box. But that's okay. That's what I'm here for.
That's why we're
Like,
human.
yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping that it grows and continues to be useful. And I want community involvement, because I'm happy to be like the figurehead and push it along. But this is something that is only sustainable if people use it and contribute to it.
I love it. I love it. It's so you can contribute to it by just opening a pull request.
Just add an issue, and
An
I
issue.
will,
Okay,
yeah,
on
I'll take care of
GitHub.
it. I mean, I accept pull requests as well, but I figure I want to make it a little bit easier for people to
Easy.
contribute. So like
Yeah.
no one has to fork it and all of that. But if they want to, then like, I'll give them a gold star.
I think that's great. Higher Ed Duck Design. Nice job, Randy. This is cool.
Thank you.
This is very
Thank you.
cool. And I love the different names that the universities come up with. Some of them are just, design system. Other ones are like decanter, Falwell, surface, rivet. They're very interesting. I think that's cool. What's Bucks? That's Ohio State University.
Yeah.
Why'd they call that Bucks? Oh, Buckeye. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of like naming big projects, and I just like you, I love people who name their design systems.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because it's one of those things like internally it gives you something to say rather than like the brand or like our design system or something along those lines.
Sure. For sure.
So yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You posted in our podcast notes about the onion.
I
What
did.
was what
So
was that?
so I okay. So I am a big fan of what I call like sawdust products or sawdust offerings. Okay. And what that is basically like, the people who manufacture like wooden planks, they're cutting down trees. It generates a lot of sawdust. And so what they've done is they build a business that uses the sawdust. So they like compress it into bricks. So they're fire starters. They use it for a whole host of things. They've really created a secondary business based off of this overflow.
Yeah.
And I like literally, I think an hour before we hopped on this call, I found out that the Onion, okay, so I love the Onion. I love their like funny headlines. I love their approach to like everything. It's irreverent. They always think out of the box. They're always so creative. And what they have decided to do, the ownership changed hands a year ago, and the new owner is opening up a creative agency that is related to the Onion. All of the writers and the creative powerhouses at the Onion can work on marketing campaigns and creative and strategy. And so that allows, I mean, think about this. Like news places are going under all the time. All right, we're losing a lot of them. And
So
so what the Onion has done is they're like, listen, with our like idle time, we're going to lean into our strength and our brand, and we're going to offer something adjacent, a sawdust product
I love
that,
it.
yeah, and I mean, they didn't phrase it that way. This is my framing,
Yeah, yeah.
but I was just like, I'm like, it's going to help the Onion like stay up and survive. And I mean, I would
And
hire
you,
the Onion to run a
I would
campaign.
hire them, of course. Can you imagine the smart people at the Onion that write the headlines and doing the work for you after you've hired them? I
Oh
wonder if
my
they'd be
goodness.
interested in partnering.
I mean, probably. I guess they've been running this for a while now, is what they said. Like I think I half a year is what it feels like. But yeah, I'd love to work with the Onion.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, I like, I've got a bucket list of like companies I want to work with, and that just got added to my list. So,
Yeah, I think you're right. I was just talking to a designer that we've worked with in the past last week, and we were talking about his business. His name is Ernesto. He runs a studio called Studio Malagon, and he's in the process of just tweaking how they're branded and what work they do. So we were brainstorming about that. And he has this alter ego, and it's called Object Solutions. And I think it's objectsolutions.net. And he has this really irreverent satirical take on the world through object solutions. And it's, you have to see it to understand it. It's kind of leans into the post-apocalyptic uh, thing that the internet is setting us up for. So we have so much screen time. So he invented a coffin that has a built-in screen, so you can be in your coffin and just use the screen all day long, all night long. It's pretty great. The thing that I was thinking about was, can the onion, oh, so we were talking about how does object solutions interplay with his design business. And one of the things that came up was, could he leverage his skill of satire and not the expected outcome to provide an anti idea or an anti prototype in a design scheme? So maybe you come up with a brand and a logo, but then you also come up with, here's what you shouldn't do. Here's the logo you shouldn't use. And how would that stimulate creativity and stimulate discussion? And how would that make the actual product more refined, or the actual logo more refined, or the mission more refined? And the onion feels like it's sort of hand wavingly is in the similar sort of place. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of, it's satire, and it's very clever, and it's the opposite, or sometimes the thing that you expect, but just it's never reported. And I wonder if those two, if like there's a world in which you could leverage that in a creative discussion.
I think that that's where we get some of our most powerful creative from, is by like reversing, challenging, using the phrase thinking outside of the box, like subverting expectations. I just read an article by Chris Butler this morning, Christopher Butler this morning. He's the chief design officer over at Newfangled. And he was writing about how like good design looks at things and great design looks away. Meaning that, like, taking a moment and letting something grow naturally from what it's supposed to be, as opposed to like taking all of these influences in and kind of putting them together like puzzle pieces.
Mm.
And so it's really interesting because think of the iPod. Whenever the iPod came out,
2001.
it that little like spiral control, like it was not something anyone was expecting. And it was a nice control. Some people didn't like it, but some people really liked it. I really liked it. I thought it was good. And so like that's an example of kind of like taking and thinking like, what could this be if it could be anything? How do we best reflect what it is and have it have something that is uniquely its own? And the iPod click wheel did that.
Did you have one?
So, oh yeah, yeah.
And I remember when that came out, that tactile change in the click, it was just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And then it went to touch, and I kind of miss the click. I miss the mechanical.
It, they tried to kind of bring it back with like Force Touch
Oh, I
and
remember.
the
Yeah.
haptics. Like, I mean, all of the iPhones still have Force Touch, but it never caught on because it didn't really have value and people didn't really interact that way. But yeah, I'm with you. There's something about hardware having a tactile sensation. Like, I don't want a buttonless iPhone.
No, no, I don't either. But we might get that, even if we don't, like, we don't want it. We might still get it, Randy.
Well, I mean, Apple has a war on buttons. I mean, do you remember the one button mouse, like
Oh,
the hockey puck?
yeah, geez. You're right. You're right. You're
Oh, that
absolutely
was a
right.
monstrosity.
Really was. Randy, what kind of car do you drive? And the reason I'm asking is I wonder if you have mechanical buttons and things in your car, or if you're touchscreen.
Sure. So we have mechanical buttons and we have a touchscreen.
Okay,
I drive a Subaru Forester.
nice.
And one of the strong reasons for it is that it has CarPlay, because that gives me a good touch interface. But it
Mhm,
also has like a volume control button. It
mhm.
has like little apps buttons. I can like click around on things because cars need to have like tactile controls. You're driving something that's like a ton, ton and a half, 2 tons, like around, you can't be distracted.
No, no, I agree. I agree. I might need to buy a car in the next year or so, and I'm kind of dreading it because I don't know that I'll find one that has enough buttons and not too many screens. You
Well, they're
know,
starting they're starting to come back to buttons. Like
uh, I hope
I've seen
so.
some news articles in like Fast Company where it's like, oh, buttons are coming back for cars.
I hope so. I mean, I really enjoyed having a manual shift car, and that was just the best. And
Oh
then like
yeah.
you can't even I don't think you can even buy a manual car. You can't certainly can't rent one. I mean, if you want to drive a stick shift, you have to go on Turo and maybe someone will have a car you can use for the day. But I haven't looked for sure, but it just feels like stick shifts are gone.
They've definitely been in decline. Yeah, I love driving stick. It's my absolute favorite. But
Same.
like my wife and I were a one car family, and so she doesn't drive stick. So I'm like, all right, we'll get an automatic. Like, not a problem. But yeah, driving stick is a pleasure.
You didn't force her to learn how to drive a stick shift. What kind of a human being are you, Randy?
Listen,
Well,
like,
you're like, empathetic towards other humans and listen to what they want. Ah,
well, I made her watch Star Trek, like all of it. So
oh,
like I gotta pick my fights. She's now a
oh.
giant Star Trek fan.
Well, there you
So
go. Oh
yeah.
my
So
God, that's so funny. Very cool. What do you have going
yeah.
on the rest of the day?
Oh, I've got a little bit of some extra work I've got to get to. I've got a bunch of client work this week, so I'm
That's
trying
good.
to
Keep you
front load.
busy.
Yeah,
Good.
trying to front load my week so that like by Friday, hopefully I'll be nice and light and I can kind of take a nap in the afternoon.
I think that's a great
So,
idea.
yeah,
Naps always encouraged.
absolutely. How's your week looking? Or how's the rest of your day looking?
Well, pretty good. I have, I think, one meeting, a financial meeting after this meeting. We're just going to go over the numbers for April. And then, like, the rest of the week is kind of booked, actually. Tuesdays are always crazy. That's kind of the meeting day. Wednesday's usually pretty sparse. So that's good. And then it's Memorial Day weekend coming up. And oh,
Oh.
shoot, I just said when we're pretty much said when we're recording. And so I don't know when this will go out. But surprise, we're recording this the week before Memorial Day.
Well, with the long weekend, that gives you a good opportunity to listen to past episodes of Talking Drupal, and
Exactly. Yeah,
catch up on
absolutely.
those.
Yes,
Definitely listen to Talking Drupal over the long weekend.
absolutely. I would absolutely do that, especially the ones where Randy and I are on the episodes
Yeah,
independently of each other.
I was a host for a month.
I was too. It was
Nice.
awesome. My
Yeah.
my favorite was the last episode when I could have whoever I wanted on. Who did you have on?
Oh, I don't remember. I think it was probably something related to Emulsify because I was the product lead for that. So
Yes.
I really wanted to talk that up because I mean, it's an awesome project. Who did you invite on?
Jeff Robbins, my good friend Jeff Robbins. I talk to him every month. He's my business coach and mentor. I've been talking to him for a long time, and it just felt like something that we could shoot the shit on with talking Drupal. And I mean, he's one of the OG gangsters, so like, who better to have than Jeff?
Awesome.
OG gangster. I think I should have just said OG because that's duplication,
Well, it's like an ATM
redundancy.
machine. It's okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I embarrass my daughter with slang all the time. She has actually created a rule that I'm not allowed to use slang, like her slang, around her friends. She's like, without
Well,
permission. So,
that means you absolutely should do that.
you know, uh, I, I'm a nice dad and I agreed to it and I have honored it.
I
So,
I did the opposite and did not agree to it because my kids made that rule, and
yeah.
all the kids are all their friends are my best friends now too. So
Well, there you go. Well, I
that's
have a
one way,
shirt.
another way it could go.
Well, I didn't tell her I wouldn't wear the shirt that says Skibbity Toilet Riz on it and walk by when she's on calls with friends or when friends come over.
Of
So,
course not. I don't even know what that means, but that's awesome.
I know, but I wish I didn't.
Yeah, good. Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Uh, it's a mystery.
Holy crap, it's been an hour? Maybe we should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's
What do you
do it.
think? All right.
I think we should. I think we're good.
How do we do
Avant,
that?
I don't know. Avant, it's been great talking to you.
It's been great shooting the shit with you. It's been awesome, Randy, and we'll do this again soon.
Sounds good.
Very cool.